So I'm going to tell you something I haven't said on social media, okay? 6th of Jan, I found out I was pregnant. So like, let's say I'd been pregnant for a month at that time. 12th of February is when I miscarried. I knew I was going to share it. I would have liked to take a little bit more time to share it. But that particular piece of information had leaked. When I talked about my miscarriage, there were 999 people who must have said positive, supportive things. But I do remember that one person who said, you're even using your miscarriage for content. And there are still moments where it hits me. I think it was at the Cosmo Awards. It's so fun.
Please, do we have
Sorry.
That's okay. Relax. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Kids Talk Press Show. My guest for today is someone who I've known for, or rather followed for over a decade, and she's someone who's extremely inspiring, extremely authentic, and trust me, inauthenticity can be exhausting. You can't do it for such a long time. Being in this space, I know what it is to show up every single day, to come out in every way possible, to be as bare and raw as she is. She's someone I hugely admire. She's a creator, entrepreneur, podcaster, and a friend. And so while I followed her for her gorgeous nails, her hair care tutorials, her skincare, her makeup tutorials, I had one chance meeting with Aanam at an event, and which happened earlier this year, and I pretty much said that she's got to be a guest on the show. And I'm so happy that she's right here. And I'm just so happy that you're here. Literally.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for that very generous, lovely introduction. Really appreciate it.
I've really still not mastered it, but copied the wing liner tutorial like on repeat, but it's just my clumsy hands. It's not Aanam.
Practice makes perfect. You'll get it.
I'm sure. But it's so nice to have a fellow podcaster because she's know the pains of podcast recording, जो लोगों को लगता है काफी easy है.
But creator ही लोगों को लगता है काफी easy
हाँ,
है.
मतलब they think that we live the most amazing lives.
Chill, influenza, no? People like to call us on the internet, so embracing it, I guess.
Yeah. But Aanam, tell me a little bit about your childhood. Tell me how the creator avatar came into being, and of course all of it, like the influence that your parents had, the influence that childhood had, to where you are today.
I've always been a very extroverted, very friendly kid. I'm a lot like my mom in that sense, but I think that over the years, I've grown as an adult to be more of an ambivert than an extrovert. My mom is the extrovert. My father is an absolute introvert. And I've always been that outgoing, मुझे singing और dancing का बड़ा शौक है. I've always been that kid. I've been a public speaker since a very young age. The first time I was thrown on stage was when I was 3.5 years old. I was Mowgli in the Mowgli drama at Little Bo Peep here in Bandra. And they put me in red chaddis and nothing else. And a day before my performance, I threw a fit and I went to my mom and I said, I will not go on stage naked in only a chaddi. So she had 18 hours to make a full bodysuit for me in my skin color, because I demanded not to go on stage in just a literal underwear. So I've always been very opinionated in that sense.
But that's what we are. Like, creators are highly opinionated people.
And I'm very grateful for having parents that encouraged that instead of suppressing that.
Yeah.
There are videos of me from our Euro trip in 2005, I want to say, where I'm holding my dad's, you know, like those camcorders we had, those really long ones, nothing like the ones we have now. And I was like, this is our room, this is what our view is like. And when I started YouTube...
How old were you then?
2005, I must have been like 12, 13.
Wow.
Yeah, this is way before, I think it was before YouTube existed. Because YouTube came around 2005-ish, right? And my dad now will be like, it all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
You needed to do this. I thought I wanted to be like a VJ for a bit in my teens.
Should we all have the same story growing up in the MTV days?
Because, you know, VJ Anusha on Style Check. Channel V.
Yeah.
It was a thing. Every millennial will be like, wow, that was the dream life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, or whether you looked at a Priya Trivedi and you were like, wow, I want to do what she does.
Yeah.
So I feel like I went through very many switches in what I wanted to do in
Yeah.
life. And I remember in 7th grade, my class teacher said to my mother, she's a jack of all trades, but she's not yet a master of any. And at that time, my mom felt like, shit, what if my child is not able to master anything? But over the years, I've realized I may not be the best at everything, but I do my best at everything that I do.
Yeah.
And I like to do many things because I have an attention span of an eyelash on various occasions. So I can get bored very easily.
I'm just laughing because my team says that, Mansi, you have an attention span of a child.
Yeah.
Because literally, like, if I have to see the same thing the second time,
I can't.
I can't.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes on meetings, I'm checking something else and they're like, okay, she's not paying attention.
It is important for me to have 50 tabs open in my brain at all times, because if I don't do that, I feel like I'm underutilizing my time, which is great but also not great, because I put a lot of pressure on myself. And initially people used to ask, like, did you grow up with a lot of pressure? Then I'm like, the opposite. I feel like because my parents really let me be.
Fuck, this podcast is seeming like somebody's asked me the question and she's answering all of it for me.
Because, like when you're saying, what was your parents like? And I've been asked that before. And I'm like, but this is true, because they said, you do you.
Yeah.
I said, shit, now if I screw up, it's completely on me. So I better perform.
Correct.
Because they're not putting any pressure on me.
Listen, I was one of 4. I was the last one. So I've
shit.
literally been growing up in the jungle like Mowgli. Because my parents were done parenting by then, right? So they're like, jo karna hai karo. And obviously
That's such an interesting perspective, because you were forward too, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like my mom somewhere was a little guilty for being so hard on my brother.
Yeah.
When we're 4 years apart,
Yeah.
that I think she went very easy on me. And because she went easy on me when it comes to like academics or extracurriculars, I really took it up and I was like, I want to be the best at, like, I want to do my best and just succeed at whatever I give my shot at. Like,
Right.
I've always, like, a lot of people take comfort in knowing that, oh, you have a safety net. I keep telling myself, bruh, tell yourself you don't have a safety net, because actually, technically, nobody has a safety net. So I'm like, it makes me work harder. It makes me hustle harder. It makes me sometimes put more pressure than necessary. But then I realize that I do thrive well under pressure. I'm all right with the pressure. So why not? My own twisted way.
Yeah, she's incredible. Like, she's just read my mind right now. And then what happened? Like, how did the whole creator bit come into play?
So I did my my graduate degree I have, which is a bachelor's in mass media is what I studied, with a major in advertising. And I had a goal to kind of become a beauty or fashion editor at like a Vogue, which was like my dream job at the time. I've always loved content.
Yeah.
And between my first year junior college and my second yearish VMM, first half of second year to be exact and technical about it, I did about 14 internships.
Wow.
Which again, my parents thought I was crazy, because they were like, this is your college life.
Enjoy karna hai
chill,
life.
haan.
Ye time wapas nahi aayega.
Literal lines I have heard. And I said, you know what? If I want to actually be what today is known as a multi-hyphenator,
Yeah.
which we didn't have the term or have this entire industry in general, at least in India, I knew I would want to get my work experience and try different things. So after college, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So I've interned in PR, I've interned with sales, I've interned in marketing, I've interned at a call center recruitment company. I've been a hostess who stood in malls in the middle at the courtyard and made announcements. I've tried and done it all in that sense. And by the time I was in my second year BMM, I started getting clients come to me saying, we want you to manage our social media pages. Facebook was new. Twitter was just happening.
Yeah.
There was no Instagram. And my F&B clients, hospitality clients who were reaching out to me through friends who knew I was very active on these things, wanted me to handle at that point of time their Zomato accounts, which was a very big thing at that time. And somewhere around that time, I got my first ever influencer gig, not as an influencer, because I didn't even have my blog. But Tata Nano in the year 2011 wanted 10 students from 10 colleges who were considered, weird to say about yourself, but who were considered popular kids in college. So I was given a Tata Nano with a 5,000 rupee stipend and a 5,000 rupee fuel budget to have that car for, I think it was a 2-month period. And just put up tweets about it and Facebook posts about your experience. And I loved it.
Yeah.
Cut to, I think about a year or so later, I heard about blogs through a friend who is not based in India. And I think that the culture came to India a tad bit later.
Yeah.
And I said, wait, I'm writing essays and blog posts for this student lifestyle platform. At that time, it was called Cool Age, which was a subsidiary of AOL at the time. And I can only write student life there. But if I had my own, then I could write anything I wanted. And that's where What When Where the blog kind of, came from. Because I loved content. And I thought I was building a portfolio to then submit to like a Condé Nast or a Times of India. That was the zone. I didn't know it would go on to be able to be actually monetized one day.
Right. I'm literally picturing Aanam driving that Nano to, if you follow her, she is always in the driver's seat with that belt with her husband sitting by her side. So if you follow her, her love for cars literally comes.
I love cars.
Like she's obsessed, and now that Nano has really paid off. Whether it did pay off then or not is okay, but it did really pay off.
Oh,
then.
it really did. And I remember when
women in cars is like, I hate to say this, but
it's rare.
Is rare even today, which is sad.
I have a lot of friends who can drive but don't drive regularly. In fact, what I was about to say was, even in those 10 students, we were 2 or 3 girls. And I remember when they were handing the keys to us, the guys were all like nudging and being like, get your car back without a scratch and this and that. I'm going to toot my own horn for a hot second here. My car was the only car that went back with no scratches.
Amazing.
And no dents. And I was like, booyah.
Yeah.
मेरी गाड़ी ठीक है. तुम सबको रुपए के लिए भेज के वापस टाटा को लौटानी पड़ेगी.
But really, I just feel, and it's so amazing that you say that I feel like everything that we are today is kind of sewn into that childhood. And I feel like your story is like, why am I not surprised with who you are today? Because I feel like that Aanam, who was 12, 13, who has the same amount of confidence, same amount of opinion, same amount of articulation, is just here in front of me, right? To now being one of the top creators, couple of thoughts and questions here. How do you show up your authentic self year on year for this long? Like, how? And how do you build this community which loves you so authentically?
One thing I'm not good at is when it comes to aggressive strategy. I can do strategy when it comes to numbers and business on the verified front with my brand. But as a creator, I think because I fell into it so organically, I've made mistakes. I've hopefully learned from my mistakes. I can never over-strategize that side of me, and sometimes I'll have a partner manager at one of the platforms say, do this, and I'm like, but that doesn't feel very me. I know it'll get the numbers. I know it. But it doesn't feel, it may be on brand and it may be great, but it's not intuitively calling out to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like while it works for me that I've stayed authentic and I've stayed myself, there are very many people who may have worked with me over the past 12 years who will say she needs to do more strategy, because I don't want to plan and don't want to, not plan in a sense like I don't plan. I'm very planned and I'm very structured, and anyone who's worked with me will attest to that. But I don't want to over
and very professional, I must say.
Thank you. But I feel like the minute you start orchestrating who you are, you're creating a character, and I don't think it's possible to live like a character, because then you will. There's 2 types of creators, and both are right in their fair place. Those that have online personality and have in real life personality, and then those where you keep the 2 characters so in sync with one another that when someone meets you offline, it's the same energy.
Yeah.
To me, when I started getting started bumping into people, you know, when that starts happening to you somewhere, when you start getting noticed at malls or on the street, or when you're having chaat with pani puri in your mouth. That has happened to me once. It was very embarrassing.
What's the first thing to do? Swallow it or acknowledge?
I was like, that's what I did. And they understood, and we had a good laugh about it, but it was a very embarrassed moment because I had like
Meeta
chutney spilling out, and I was being a complete klutz at Punjab Sweet House. But like, I feel like my favorite kind of compliments are those when someone says, "You are exactly like your videos."
Oh, I love that. That's, you know, that I've actually posted about that. When actually people say that, it's the best compliment that you've ever received.
Nothing better than that.
Guys, why do I feel like I've met my twin sister on this podcast?
We probably have. We found each other.
But this is really like, it just seems like an epiphany when you're talking, right? And I'm like, okay, so you know, like I've said this before.
But that's why we have longevities in our careers at the end of the day, right? Like I feel like when you look at newer creators today, newer creators talking about burnout, when I hear and when they talk to me about it, because I feel like I'm blessed in the sense that I have creator friends who started at a similar time as me or after, somewhere in the middle, and even newer creators.
Yeah.
So when the newer creators tell me they're feeling burnout, I'm like, wait, fuck. I get it but if you're doing this for 3 years and you're feeling burnout, what's happening?
Yeah, but like why? And that brings me to a question, Aanam, and you know, we've had people earlier on the podcast discuss about, does this generation have less resilience than us, and why do you feel like the pressures are so different today?
I don't think this generation has less resilience. I think this generation just is more competition, more stress. Because when I'll speak for myself, when I started, there wasn't a pressure to have X number of followers, Y number of views, Z kind of engagement. It wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
We got to make our mistakes from production to strategy to content in almost silence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the industry was only silent.
Yeah.
Industry tiny.
We created it.
Exactly.
But I still remember when I used to go and tell people that what is a parenting platform. I think you should invest in, you know, digital marketing for the parenting industry. Even the largest of brands who own like 75 to 80% market share, they'll be like, कुछ समझ में नहीं आया. Like I think the first 2 years I just spent time explaining people what digital marketing is.
For the longest time, my mother thought that my job was taking pictures for Facebook. And then in 2014, 3 years after I started what I do, Channel V followed me around for 24 days and did a day in Aanam's life as a creator.
Wow.
And it was the first of its kind for me to get that kind of press also, right? That's when she was like, oh, like she's not just taking pictures for Facebook. She's doing more stuff. And she's like, you know, and that's when she got into it and she said, nope, walk me through everything that you do. And brand partnerships had just started around that time. So, yeah, I mean, what we had, in a way, the time was a blessing.
Yeah.
Because now we're more structured and we know what to do. And so many of us walked so this generation could run. And that's not my line. Somebody else said it, but they said it on my podcast. And I was like, that's so true. Why have I never thought of this before?
Yeah.
But it's true. I agree with it wholeheartedly. And it's just that now there's more pressure because there's more creators. If there were 10,000 earlier, there are 10 million now. And I discover myself at least 50 new platforms or 50 new pages a week, and I barely scroll on Instagram. Even then, I discover like...
Did she just say that I barely scroll Instagram? Like, what's your screen time every day?
My screen time majority is not Instagram. But it may be about at least 3-4 hours, but it's definitely not with Instagram.
How much is on Instagram?
I have a 1 hour set on Instagram. It's the app timer thing.
Yeah.
My team actually post-pandemic started sitting on my head saying, go through Reels, see what's happening on Reels, see what's happening. But like I said, I'm somebody that cannot do things for the numbers. This push and pull is a forever struggle at our end. They're like, this will do very well. And sometimes I'll give in. My editor in particular is someone who's been with me for 4 years. And he's a very good trend finder in that sense. And lots of times I'll tell him, nope, that doesn't feel like me, that doesn't feel like me. And because he's been with me for so long, he understands what's on brand for me.
Yeah.
But he'll encourage me to be like, ye kar lo, ye try kar. So sometimes I'll give in,
Yeah.
And other times...
Even that sounds very
Other times
familiar.
I'm like...
Is this strange that both our teams are sitting here and they're nodding on the exact same thing? This is identical.
Because
This is
I'm
crazy.
too attached to the content, which I get is probably not the smartest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But I would rather look at every piece of content and feel proud of it than cringe at it 6 months later and be like, shit.
Right.
Sometimes that I do that.
And tell me, when you have something, like you mentioned that you're so close to it, when you've built a community so close, where do you draw the boundary of what I want to share, what is personal and what is professional?
My honest truth answer for this is everything's on the table. It really truly is.
Do you never want to hold back?
I would hold back things about other people. I would never want to tell, I would never consider it being my place to tell somebody else's story.
Yeah.
But I look at my entire YouTube channel like me documenting things I can look back at when I'm 60 or 70, probably doing YouTube still. I don't know if people will have me, why not?
Yeah.
For me, I feel like everything's up for grabs. I'm happy to talk about it. I feel like I'm happy to talk about it because so much on the internet that we see is a highlight reel of other people's lives. So much is so glossy.
Yeah.
And so much is so like, I want to keep it real. It's always been my thing. I don't find, sometimes I get calls from my mom. Did you really have to have your hair like that? Now she's become the ulta of what she was when I was a kid. Now she's like, so many people are watching your video. You should have just said, Mom, but if I'm waking up and my hair looks like shit, it looks like shit. It does. Everybody's hair looks like shit when you wake up. We're not in Balaji television shows where you wake up.
We sleep with red lipstick and eyeliner
and
on.
perfect sindoor and a blow. Life is not that,
Yeah.
It's not. And I just want to keep it real. And for the people it works for, they'll watch. And for people that it doesn't work for, will not watch. It's as simple as that.
Right. And obviously when I speak of that information sharing and on the community, I think, and you can second or disagree, which was you shared probably one of your lowest lows when you had your miscarriage with the community on Instagram. Was there a moment, was that your lowest low?
Yeah. Personally, yeah. Yeah.
Did you say, it's too personal, I don't want to share it?
So I'm going to tell you something I haven't said on social media, okay? I knew I was going to share it. I would have liked to take a little bit more time to share it. But that particular piece of information had leaked.
No.
And people had started talking about it that I came to know of. And I said, no, I'm not going to let my life or a low moment turn into a weakness. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this power back. And I would have liked to hold on to that news for a little bit longer. But
I think sharing your narrative
it was important to me.
I mean, keeping the control of that narrative
it was
in
really
your hands.
I needed to take that power back because I said life is me over right now. I will not let another human me over.
Yeah.
And I needed to take that back. I said if people are going to know, they're going to know because I'm telling them. They're not going to know because whatever. People have no other work to do. So,
but I mean, what was that time like? Were you guys consciously thinking that you want to have a baby and you wanted to start a family? And then, and I'm going to have a question back on that. In the space that you are, you know, we are such people that we feel like every day in our point is the highest peak we'll ever reach. Did you ever think, and I know so many people, so many women especially, feel like I want to delay this, I want to delay this, I want to delay this because I'm at my highest high right now. Was that a thought that crossed your mind?
So two things. First, up until the pandemic, I did not want to have a kid.
Okay.
I thought I'm very pro-adoption and we just went with the flow of we want to adopt and we don't want to have kids. Somewhere in the lockdown, that perspective changed for both of us. And my husband's been very one of those people who's like, it's your call, it's your body. This is, we knew we wanted a kid one way or the other. So there was no question of me delaying anything for anything. But the second side of that is because we talk about being at the highest high, or because we talk about, are we worried about something because we're at, you're at the peak. Like one of the thoughts I did have when I got pregnant was, there's going to be a phase where I'm not going to go for events. It's going to be A, when I'm trying to hide the pregnancy once I start showing, and B, once you're due any time or you're on maternity leave. And at that point of time, our business is a very out of sight, out of mind kind of a space. It's the reality of it. But I don't believe that your peak happens just once. I think people forget that, like a mountain range, you can have multiple peaks. And so to think and trick yourself into thinking that you can only be on top once is just, you're gaslighting yourself into thinking nothing's going to come your way if you can only have this or that and you can't have both. One of the things my mom always said to me was, you can have it all if you work for it all. And I want to have it all. I've always believed that. I have always believed I could have it all. And I think that somewhere what social media is now calling Delulu is the only Salulu. That has been me my whole life. I have faked confidence at times when I wasn't confident. I have 100% thought that I can do way more than I can, and maybe I couldn't, but it definitely helped make me work harder, and it worked in my favor in a certain way. So I feel like, and even now, today, I'm not pregnant. I'd like to be. I have a great career, and I'd love to reflect that same kind of success on the home front, which not to say I don't have just because I don't have a kid, but it's just something I'd like to work towards. But
So sorry, coming back to the question, what changed in that pandemic? You decided that you guys want to have a kid.
I think that I can't put a finger on an exact moment or an exact anything, but I'm not sure. Like, I've always been a very family-oriented person. If I have a free Friday night, and if I have friends making a plan and my parents making a plan, I will go with my parents making a plan. And I've been that way all my life, through the teens, through my 20s. I'm 32 today.
You're only 32.
I'm 32, yeah.
Oh God.
How old did you think I was? I have to ask.
No, I'm like, okay, because I was thinking like 12 years. So like maybe that's what I was thinking.
You were doing the math.
Yeah, I was.
I was 19 or 20
wow.
when I started.
That's also starting young.
December 2011. December 8th, 2011.
She's very young. Okay, let's move on. I'm suddenly feeling like...
No, but I feel like I'm so opposed to the idea of age being a factor. My husband and I are 11 years apart.
Okay.
So I'm 32, but he's 43.
Okay.
We met when he was 33 and I was 22. Or maybe I was 23 and he was something.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're coming back onto that point where you guys decided that, okay,
I can't pinpoint to an exact moment, but I think that when you're going through so much, and we lost a few people in our lives in 2020, as so many people did, I think the importance of family was so much more magnified. And I don't know what happened where we decided we wanted the biological kid. Like I can't put a finger on the moment or the reason or whatever exactly why, but something just happened and I was like, you know what.
So tell me that period between the conception to the miscarriage. What really happened? Were you like 12 weeks down?
How many weeks down was I? I feel like I was about 9 or 10 weeks down. I don't think I hit the 12 mark. No.
Yeah.
So we decided this whole thing in 2020, 2021. I got pregnant in 23.
Yeah.
We weren't actively trying the whole time. We said as it goes. There was no time-bound pressure. I feel like both of us are very go with the flow people in general. We started trying start of this year.
Yeah.
So we pretty much kind of got it right the first time in a sense, which we were very blessed to have. That was still a blessing.
Yeah.
It was our anniversary the day I found out, 26th of Jan. We had been married for 6 years on that day, Republic Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they say you should wait a couple of weeks before taking the test. I didn't wait because I knew I was due to get my period that day, and I was like, I'm going to take the test because I'm getting impatient, and I had never felt that emotion before, and I was somewhere in my mind I was sure I was pregnant, and Jerry said, you're getting ahead of yourself, like calm down. But I was right. And then 26th of Jan I found out I was pregnant. So like let's say I'd been pregnant for a month at that time. 12th of February is when I miscarried. And I spent my Valentine's Day very nicely getting a DNC at the gynacs. Great plan. Hopefully never doing that again. But yeah, that was the timeline of things. And the issue that happened was because obviously I was like, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Is the first thing you think at a time like this. My HCG and progesterone levels weren't going as high as they should have. And I was being given shots by my doctor because I was getting tests done to figure things out regularly. And there was nothing that I could do. It was out of everybody's control. So yeah, that's basically what happened.
But tell me, between that news to the surgery to coming back home, how did you, and you're someone who's quite a planner, right? Like you have a plan to everything, and I think somewhere your impatience to even know was to plan it for perfection, plan 100%. It for work, not for the ideal case scenario, but like, what can I do to have it all organized, all structured? Because you are a structured person, Aanam.
100%.
So I think that impatience was because of that. Tell me that moment from finding out to processing it, and of course then having the courage to share it.
I can't. There's nothing specific that I can point out to except for the fact that I stayed optimistic all the way till I started bleeding the night of the 11th. I was like, this is normal. I've read about it being normal after getting your first, sonography and all of that. Yeah. I was like, I'm good. We're going to get through this. It's okay. My husband had fully gone into panic mode because he's a very, he's not as optimistic as I am. He's a much bigger realist than I am. But I think I was fine. I think for me, the real blow came the morning of the 13th, because on 12th, when I was rushed to the doctor in the morning after bleeding, and my gynac is literally at the end of my own lane, thank God for that. And she said, I can't tell, it was a Sunday, you need to get another sonography.
Yeah.
And everything was shut that Sunday for whatever reason. And they couldn't. So she said, you need to get hospitalized, stay here, and we need to monitor you and have you on bed rest. And I said, doctor, I don't want to stay in the hospital. Hospitals are very depressing. Yeah. I lived at the end of the lane. And I was like, I'm going home. I promise you I will not leave my bed. Just let me go home. I went home, and she had given me injections that day also, because she was, the term she had used, I think a part of my brain has blocked all of it out. She used the term threatened abortion. So she was like, you're still pregnant. There's a good chance you're still pregnant, because my cervix was still closed up.
Yes.
I think a part of my brain has just really blocked the terms out after all this time. And I was like, okay, cool. I promise I'll stay on bed rest till my sonography tomorrow morning. And I was, in my head, I was like, I'm still pregnant. I'm good to go. This is a bump in the road. I've always had this, my friends know this phrase I use when shit goes down. I'm like, ab kya? And Shefali and I, in fact, had a good laugh about this in the past also, because I think that we've bonded over a lot of our generally difficult times in life. And ab kya is something that all my friends hear me talking, where I'm like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Like when shit goes down, the good thing is it's already down now. You can only go up. That's the way I like to think of things. So I said, okay, I'm going to be on bed rest for the next 24 hours, go to the sonography tomorrow morning, and actually know what's happened. Because when I went to the sonography the following morning, when the doctor said no, for whatever reason, it looks like the doctor assumed, my gynac assumed I was pregnant, but I wasn't. I had already miscarried. That to me is when shit truly went down. When I was like, fuck, okay, my optimism really did not come to my rescue.
Right.
And it took me a few days, I'd say a few weeks, and there are still moments where it hits me. I think it was at the Cosmo Awards. It's so fun. It was the Cosmo Beauty Awards when they were doing a recap, and that moment really got to me. I felt and I don't even know why. You know, sometimes you look at things and you're like, why is this like now? Why is it messing me up? But I closed that chapter in my head. There was a 5-second clip of celebrities and people who were pregnant in the year. And there was a friend sitting next to me. And I don't know why she checked on me, but I was sitting in a corner and my award nomination was next. I could have possibly won, and in a way, I'm glad I didn't win really, because I would have had to go on stage with my mascara having done, and that clip just got to me. So it's like I feel like sometimes I'm fine, and then there are other times when you're not fine. And I've spoken to people about it when I talked about it on social media. Apart from Instagram, I vlogged that week. I vlogged the second half of that week, because at least for myself, I wanted to document it. I'm somebody who likes to document a lot of things, a lot of which doesn't make it to the internet, but a lot of things that I just keep. Like when I told my family, friends, my team that we were pregnant, I still have all that. So it was just nice to have, just I would still like to go back and look at that someday, and I haven't been able to, but at some point I would like to. So yeah, some days you think you're fine, and as per what everyone else says to me, you never truly completely get over it. So
yeah, and I always believe that grieving is very important, and grieving has no finite timeline.
Yeah.
You grieve over it, over happy times, over sad times, over songs, over it may be so strange that sometimes you're just driving and a song plays, and it may remind you of that moment that you thought you want to move past.
Yeah.
And what I can tell you is that don't try to make it that finish line, because it's not a finish line and you'll never get past it. You just have to embrace it and say, this is moving with me.
Yeah.
And it just kind of becomes easier. And sometimes it's also us trying to replace that moment or that person who you're grieving about with something else, instead of just increasing the shelf and saying, okay, there's place for more. Because we're always trying to substitute instead of extending, and I've found great relief in that. So I mean, when you're rating that Cosmo incident, it just seemed, and it's not the universe trying to remind you that of what you've lost, but you seeking to play victim mode sometimes, and that's such a normal thing to do when you've
100%. I see, like I said, I tell myself ab kya for everything.
Yeah.
So my modus operandi has always been, you want to cry over it?
Absolutely.
Cry over it, and then get up and get moving.
Yeah.
That's been the mantra for me in life, for every low that I've ever faced. Like I hear my mother's voice ringing in my ears. She's the voice of my conscience, who's like, okay, done, cried, now come back and cry at night for half an hour if you want to, now get on with your day.
Right.
So a hot take, a lot of people don't like that book actually, surprisingly, but Tuesdays with Maury was a book that really stayed with me.
Oh my God.
Surprisingly, the internet does not like that book.
I wonder why.
Because that book has really stayed with me. And it was in that book and I don't remember character names now because it's been so long since I read it, but they said that, how you grieve is yours, it's your way. And it was something to the effect of where they said that you can grieve in doses.
Absolutely.
And that really appealed to me because I said, I can plan it. So when a wave of grief would come to me in the middle of the day, which it still does, like today we're sitting on October 29th, 30th, and 18th of October would have been my due date. And on that day at night when I was going to bed, I cried a little and I said, done.
Aanam, don't be so harsh on yourself.
No, but it helps. I'm not being harsh. It's just, it works.
You don't
for
need
me.
to be perfect all the time.
No, it's not about being perfect. It's about rational.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm a very practical person. So
but her time practical is not needed. Sorry, can we get her a tissue, please? Do we have a...
Sorry.
That's okay. Relax. Guys, let's give her a moment.
No, I'm good. I'm good, honestly. This is what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, and to me, it's the rational thing to do. It's not like I'm trying to be perfect or trying. It just helps me manage my emotions, and it just helps me manage my expectations.
Right.
As someone who's been working on myself, I've been going to therapy for 5 years on and off at this point. For me, I figured what helps, because I'm what one would describe as too emotional a person. And if I truly let my emotions take reign, I'll be sitting in my bed with the curtains closed and I'll be sitting there for months.
Right.
But this is how I've learned to manage my emotions. It just works for me.
Right. Tell me, do you as a creator feel that sometimes, like you already said earlier, like putting your narrative and being in control of your narrative is important. Do you feel that sometimes just putting it out there, and I feel this, that sometimes putting it out there is, and both good and the not so good, is one, when it's the good, you give yourself higher goals, कि अब तो public को पता है, तो I better deliver on it. And when the not so good, you feel like it's done. Like, you know, I put it out in the universe now. लोगों को जो सोचना है, they can think about it, they can do it, but I've shared my part of the piece.
I don't think I think that much about what people think.
No, that's amazing.
I just don't think that much. I mean, there are certain things when I hear about that I feel are a little bit below the belt. Like, and it could be like stupid things. Like when they talk about me, or if I hear, it doesn't matter. But you know, something that you think is a very big achievement in your life, and then someone comes to question that.
Yeah.
Like, I bought my own house when I was 26.
Yeah.
And it was a really big feat for me because it was a goal that I've had all my life.
Of course.
And then people were like, oh, her dad paid for it, or she married her husband for the money. And Jerry and I at this point just have a running joke. I'm like, bruh, I've been with you for 9 years. We've been married for almost 7. Where's the money that everyone's talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
So those things pinch me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it almost starts to feel like you don't want to give a woman the credit for the work that she's put in. I've been a creator for 12 years. For the first 9 to 10 years, I didn't buy a single designer bag.
Yeah.
Because I was putting every rupee towards my down payments, towards my EMIs, towards my... And then when I do, you're like, she's throwing money.
Yeah.
And then when I don't, you're like, so there's no winning.
Yeah.
So I don't care about what people say, but there are the few things that can pinch me where I'm like, this doesn't even feel morally okay to do to another.
Yeah, but you have a gorgeous house. I've seen the videos of when she shared it on Instagram.
You must come and see it in person now.
I was like, she's done it so beautifully, so aesthetically, and it's really, really beautiful. And and you know, now that we were having this conversation, I feel, and when I go back to those videos, I feel like every piece has that reflection of you. Like every piece seems like it was there because you handpicked so much of it. Tell me, when you post something out there, and especially your post on your miscarriage, are people all good?
No.
How do you deal with the negative when you're already at your worst?
I don't deal. Why do I have to deal? Am I going to take life advice from these people? No. So why am I taking the criticism to heart? They don't want to see glossy versions of everything. When I talked about my miscarriage, there were 999 people who must have said positive, supportive things. But I do remember that one person who said, you're even using your miscarriage for content. I remember that. I don't believe it. I don't agree with it. But unfortunately, human brain, you remember that.
Yeah.
But that's on you. That's not on me. I don't have to respond and react to everything. What's happening around you, you can't control, but you can control the way you react to it.
Yeah.
I don't need to react to it. What you gonna do? Why am I gonna break my head on things that don't matter to me?
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's not always sunshines and daisies. There were people, for example, I did this Navratri series on my reels where I wanted to do something different, and I love to dance, and every once in a while I'll post a dancing video from my dance class. But we actually planned the entire dancing series, and there were people who commented and said, you look weird here. It's okay, that's their opinion. I'm a public person with a public platform and an open page. They can leave comments, I can block.
Yeah.
You do you, I'll do me. It's that simple.
Right.
I don't think I care enough, or I don't think I think only enough about what somebody else has to say.
But do you still remember that one comment?
I do. And I think I blocked them also, if I remember correctly. But that's what I'm saying, right? I may remember it, but I'm not gonna analyze to usko aise kyun laga.
Right.
Because there are more people on the internet that need to see the real behind the scenes into public people's lives.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to see it, it's a problem. Like, it's almost as if you're complaining about it, and then when you see it, you're still complaining about it.
Right.
There's almost no winning. So I'd rather just take my win and leave.
Right.
It's okay.
Tell me, when you are a public person, how much consent from your partner is important when you're sharing good news and bad? Like, did you and Jerry discuss it that I want to share it? Did he have resistance?
No. I mean, yes, we discussed it. No, there was no resistance in the sense that I feel like, of course, this has to do with relationship to relationship basis. In Jerry and my case, we work together. We've been working together since 2019. And we're very on the same page of living lives like open books. If I had a, God forbid, miscarriage, illness, like my vlog from last week, which went live yesterday on Sunday, I talk about having my first ever adult UTI. And I feel like those are things that I want to normalize talking about. They're about me, so I don't need consent on that. But if I was sharing information about his life and that's his story to tell, I would definitely ask and seek permission before, because that's just the normal thing to do.
Yeah.
Like one of my really close friends from college is pregnant, and I met her for the first time since she's shared the news, and I'm so happy for her. In fact, this year I have 6 to 7 friends who are popping babies, and I'm so happy for all of them.
Right.
Because good for you, you wanted that in your life, and I can be sad for me and happy for you at the same time. It's not mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm jealous of you. It just means I'm happy for you, and I can separate that from working on my own journey. They're two very different things. I can compartmentalize well, and I know that about myself. But I was like, can I share this in my vlog? 'Cause she's one of my close friends, and she's been in my vlogs, and they've met her and seen her in challenge videos. And she was like, yeah, sure. And she's this very cute bump showing. And I would ask before posting that.
Yeah.
Right? But no, I don't think there's ever been friction between Gerard and I on how much to share, on how much not to share.
Right.
I feel like we're very much on the same wavelength when it comes to being authentic and keeping things real on the internet, because there's really not enough of it.
Yeah, I agree. Tell me, when you say that I can be happy for you and I can be sad for myself at the same time, what are you saying to yourself? Because I just find that such a tough emotion for someone to process, because I'm sure that you've questioned, why me?
No. That's the only thing I haven't questioned. I've questioned a lot. I checked whether what I did I do something wrong, or can I learn something for the next pregnancy?
Yeah.
I don't think I once said why me. I have a lot of things in my life that I have not said why me for, the good things. So I don't think I have the right to say why me for this.
Aanam, how the fuck are you so sorted?
No, look, I think that where I am today is, I never imagined having the life that I have today.
Yeah.
Right? Because the box and the path and the journey you have in your mind for yourself is very different. And timing worked out. It really did. Things happened to me at the right time. I worked hard when I got the opportunity, but the fact that I got those opportunities at the right time is fate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think once did I say why me. In fact, one of my aunts said this to me on a call, because she saw my post and she said, can I just tell you, I'm very proud of you that not once did you say why me. So that line is very clear in my head.
Right.
And I don't think I ever say why me for anything, because there are things on the work front where sometimes I'm like, but that why me phrase, because a lot of great things have happened in my life. More good things than shitty things.
Yeah.
And I think it would be, I need to acknowledge my path and my luck and my privilege. And it's, no. I can't be a why me person. If I ever turn into a why me person, whack me.
You know what I just realized? I haven't even looked at these questions. And it's been like so much conversation. I've not even turned one page of the cue card. But tell me that path between after you shared it publicly, a thing that annoys me the most, and I'm sure it will be something, is the sympathy that comes your way. And sometimes is genuine. The concern, I feel, is more genuine. The sympathy, not always. How did you deal with that? Like, how did people at work react? How did friends react? How did folks from the industry react?
I see concern, not necessarily sympathy, because sympathy is such a complex feeling. There's so many layers to that.
Yeah.
I see concern as love.
Yeah.
I told you I'm an optimist. It's a problem sometimes. So it doesn't bother me. Like, I bumped into a friend a couple of months ago, a work friend, like a creator friend, at an event, and she said, "No, but how are you?" And I understood what she meant by that. And I said, "I'm good." And I get that. I appreciate that. Because there's also not enough of that going around in the world. You know? And it doesn't bother me. I'll take it. It's love. Who says no to love? You know what I mean? Like, I'll take the love. I'm okay.
But you know, sometimes there are times when you're trying to forget it, but people keep coming
But I'm
back.
not trying to forget it. It's who I am. I'm not trying to forget it. I'm not running away from it. It's part of my life. It's given me a different experience, one I may not have wanted, but it's still part of my journey. I'll probably cherish my rainbow pregnancy even more and be even more careful, and you know, I'm a little worried I'll be too psyched at that time, but I'm not trying to run away from it, and I'm not trying to forget it. And the only reason I said earlier that I must have blocked the technical terms is because when I was in the doctor's clinic, I think part of my brain was just not computing to its full capacity. And so I have clearly blocked some part of it out to forget that. But I don't want to forget that I had a miscarriage. I'm not looking to run away from this. I'm not looking to run away from any of the memories of the breakups I had before meeting my husband. I'm not. Every experience made me who I was. It is what it is. It's the bitter truth, but it's the truth.
But you know, you're sometimes trying to move past it for sure. And does that feel like, okay, you know, I've pulled myself out of bed today to come here, to show up, to create this, and bringing work energies into focus. But, you know, sometimes somebody says that one sentence and, you know, everything seems off then. Does that happen?
I think that could happen to someone who had a problem processing their emotions. I'm very okay with being vulnerable. I just cried in front of you when we've met for only like the second time. I'm not, my default mode is not to run away from my emotions. That's just it. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with saying, I need 5, I need to like howl my brains out in the bathroom and I'll be right back. Like, I'm very, there's a very short wire between my brain and my mouth. So when I think something, I say it. Sometimes a little too quickly. But it is what it is. I'm not, it is the way it is.
And tell me the journey from then until now, and what have you thought ahead? Like, are you guys again looking at adoption? Are you looking at having a baby? Have you figured it all out? Are you on a different path?
We haven't figured it all out.
I don't think anybody has.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think anyone is. I mean, I guess even parents are still figuring things out, right, as they go. No, we're definitely hoping to conceive at some point. It's not something we're actively rushing on per se, because I feel like life has happened this year, even like apart from the miscarriage, work-wise, commitments-wise. Our unanimous plan of running away was getting away for 5 to 6 weeks, which we did, and then we came back and we ran away again for another 10 days. So I feel like we've distracted our minds in a very healthy travel-like way and said, let's just look at the bright side. We couldn't go away on a 6-week holiday with if we had a kid coming. So what can we do that we couldn't do otherwise? So we've changed our perspective in a way, but right now we're just going with the flow. We're like, when the time is right. A very big lesson for me was just trusting the process this year. And I've always thought I trusted the process, but this year I think it was really validated to me in my own mind that I truly do just trust the process. And so I'm just going with the flow.
You know, we had a guest in one of our earlier episodes, and she had a similar journey, and then she's like, one of the biggest takeaways that I would tell people is, even before you start trying, is kind of freeze your eggs, because she had a miscarriage at 31, 32, and she's like, you know what, that dealing with that, and you know, saying that, okay, I'm not going to try this, I'm not going to try this, I'm not going to try this, was the biggest mistake that I made. And of course she's now pregnant, and then she opted for IVF. But do you have any of the blocks that, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this?
Never say never. I don't know, like, I'd like to not do IVF. But at some point, if it doesn't happen, and if I really want it, will I try it? Probably will. So I never say no.
Yeah.
I've tried so many things in my professional life before coming to what I eventually wanted.
Yeah.
So why should I do that in my personal life?
Yeah.
You gotta taste everything a little bit. Take it one bite at a time.
Okay, last question. This is clearly coming from having this conversation with you. How are you such an eternal optimist? Where do you draw your energies from?
I don't know. My imagination.
That's a very simple answer.
It is. I mean, when I was growing up and people would be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would describe this person, some degree of which I'd like to think I've grown into. And I realized that I like to visualize a lot. And so because I visualize a lot and I meditate a few times a week, when I'm meditating, I like to visualize the life that I want. I think that gives me a lot of hope. And like I said, my mom is an eternal optimist. We're optimists to an almost delusional level sometimes.
Yeah.
But it works for us. So just my imagination, I guess. Maybe her imagination, she passed that down to me. That could be another one. But I don't have I wish I could give you like a fixed source.
No, I'm sure that there isn't. But
I think my ab kya is
is ab kya, right? Even the exactly to your ab kya is my like what next, Mansi? Like what's the next step? So I keep, no matter where I am or what shit has hit the roof, I'll be like, okay, what next?
Yeah, so I might scream at first and be like, fuck. But then I'm like solution oriented. So that's who I am intuitively. And there's no, like that's just who I am. That's just who I'm wired to be, I guess. And I genuinely believe that I'm such a mix of both my parents. My dad is a realist. He's very practical. He's very structured, organized, and I get that from him. And my mom is this creative, free spirit, eternal optimist, lives life by her own rules, and her day has no structure whatsoever.
Yeah.
Completely opposite of my dad. But I genuinely do think I'm like the perfect mishran of the two of them. Like,
and what a mission, what a recipe that's come out to be.
I'm happy, so I'm okay.
No, but Aanam, this was truly so soulful. And like I said in my introduction, I think you're one of the most authentic souls I've met. I love how you're so in control of your narrative, in control of what you want. And, and also the free-spirited person that you are, right? Like before we started this interview, I was like, I don't need to read. I'm going to go with the flow. And that's who she is. And I can't believe that there is so much of her, so much of me in her, that this interview has been like an absolute breeze. And this podcast has been like, I can't believe we've spent an hour chatting. Literally, I can't believe that. But thank you. And thank you for sharing this. And thank you for really just being so authentic.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for making this conversation a breeze, because I feel like sometimes when you're talking about the tough things, it can not necessarily be a breeze, but you made it one, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
For parenting tips, celebrity interviews, recipes, conversations with experts, DIYs, and lots more. Subscribe to Kids Talk Press now.